Hello and welcome to Changing Tracks, where we delve into the history of railways and how the layouts have changed. Today we're going to be looking at the South Staffordshire line that runs from Whitchmoor Junction right the way through to Dudley via Walsall.
The South Staffordshire Railway was authorised in 1847 to build a line from Dudley to Whitchmoor Junction via Walsall and Lichfield to connect up with the Birmingham to Derby Railway. The line was supported by the London North Western Railway and the Midland Railway and was completed in 1849. In 1850, the line was leased to one individual, John Robinson McLean. However, the London North Western Railway wanted control of the network of lines in the Walsall and Cannock area and worked to get the London North Western Railway shareholders to transfer the lease to London North Western Railway, which happened in 1867.
So, grab a helmet, hop on, and let's go explore this railway. We start here in Dudley, which opened in 1850 but wasn't completed until 10 years later. The station was built by the Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway, which later became the Great Western Railway, and the South Staffordshire line, which became part of the London North Western Railway.
The station itself was built in two halves. The western half to serve the Great Western Railway with its goods yard here, and the South Staffordshire Railway with its goods yard here. The station closed in 1964, but all was not lost as the area was still rife with industry. A Freightliner terminal was opened in 1967. By 1981, the terminal was one of the most profitable terminals for Freightliner, but for reasons unknown to those with a working brain, plans were announced for its closure. These plans were shelved in 1983, but resurfaced in 1986, and the terminal finally closed in 1989. 4 years later, the line closed to all remaining traffic. The question arose regarding what to do with the site of the station. One plan in 1997 was for a waste reception centre, but these were thrown away when they realised there was enough garbage in the area. Other plans over the years included a football stadium and housing, but 20 years later nothing has been built. With the announcement of the extension of the West Midlands Metro, 2 tram stops were added to the station site and a very light rail innovation centre, a £32 million project for Coventry and Dudley Borough Councils to play with trains, which has now gone into administration.
A few other things about Dudley. Behind me you've got the castle, just down the road you've got the Black Country Living Museum, and this place is full of wild animals. And they've also got a zoo. Whoa, 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 Nelly! The next station up the line is Dudley Port. The station opened on 2 levels, the lower level opening first in 1850 for the South Staffordshire Railway, and the upper level just behind me opening 2 years later. There was a connection between the 2 lines. Just behind me is the junction where it went over the South Staffordshire line before joining it from the west.
The connecting line crossed over the Birmingham Canal, where you can still find the bridge abutments. Downstairs, the Midland Metro is currently under construction, but with the rate at which works have been progressing, it may only open in the year
45. The next station along is Great Bridge Station. The station opened as Great Bridge in 1850 and 100 years later was given the name Great Bridge North to differentiate it from another station nearby. The station remained open until 1964 when it closed to passengers, but remained open for freight until 1972. The line through the section remained open until 1993.
The area around the station was rife with industry, with numerous goods sidings to transport the goods. However, by the 1990s, all that was left was a steel terminal until the closure of the line in 1993.
Next up, we have Wednesbury Town. The station opened in 1850 as just Wednesbury, and 100 years later, it was renamed as Wednesbury Town. It closed to regular passenger traffic in 1964, but remained open until 1970, when it was used for diversion trains whilst the West Coast Main Line was being electrified.
The station was originally opened as the only station for Wednesbury with 2 platforms, with the southbound platform on a loop line. In 1854, another station was built on the rival Great Western Railway Snow Hill to Wolverhampton Low-Level Railway. In 1863, the Dullaston Loop Line was built, with 2 platforms added to serve the railway, and a new railway was also added to Tipton also served by the London North Western Railway. In 1877, the platforms for the Darlaston Loop line were taken out of use, but the line remained open for freight traffic. In 1948, the Ocker Hill Power Station was opened, branching off from the line to Tipton. In 1959, the last section of the Darlaston Loop line serving the goods depot was closed. In 1964, the station closed to passenger services. In 1972, the Great Western Railway was closed to passenger services, but the freight connection remained to serve the Wolverhampton Steel Terminal and Bilston. In 1981, the line to Tipton was closed, but the connection to the Ocker Hill Power Station remained until 1985. The remaining lines closed in 1993, leaving Wednesbury without any rail connections until 1999, when the West Midlands Metro was opened between Birmingham Snow Hill and Wolverhampton George Street. The South Staffordshire Railway remained closed, but plans to create a branch to Dudley using the formation of the Railway South were announced in March 2019, just as the West Midlands Combined Authority could scrape together enough money from under their sofa cushions to fund the project. Originally the planned opening was 2023, but due to incompetence was pushed back and now will open in the autumn of 2025.
Just the other side of the level crossing is where the Great Western Railway crossed over the South Staffordshire Railway. This bridge has been replaced and is now in use by the West Midlands Metro that goes from Snow Hill to Wolverhampton. Between Wednesbury and Walsall is where the South Staffordshire Railway crossed over the Grand Junction Railway and passed underneath the car park known as the M6 motorway. The line south of here closed in 1993, however a short stub to the north was brought back into use in 2014 to serve as a runaround point for coal trains from Rugeley Power Station. The coal trains lasted all but 2 years, so yeah, 2 years of use, whoop-de-doo.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Next up we have Walsall Station.
The original station was opened from 1847 just to the south of Bridgeman Street and closed 2 years later with the opening of a new station just to the north. Due to the explosion of railways in the area, the station was rebuilt with 5 platforms in 1883. The station was a joint venture between the Midland Railway and the London North Western Railway, which both had their own booking offices. Walsall was heavily affected by the reshaping of the Railways Act of the 1960s. First came the line from Lichfield to Dudley, closely followed by the Sutton Park line a year later. Passenger services to Rugeley were also withdrawn, leaving Walsall with just a crappy 1 train per hour to Birmingham, which was also nearly withdrawn, meaning Walsall would have been one of the largest towns in the UK without a railway service. Thankfully Beecham was given the Johnny Wilkinson treatment, and the remaining lines to Birmingham and Wolverhampton were electrified in 1966. The station was rebuilt in the 1980s, incorporating the Settlers Shopping Centre, and in 1989 became a through station with trains running through to Hednesford, these trains extending to Rugeley in 1997.
Since the 1990s, there have been calls to reinstate services to Wolverhampton, and on a couple of occasions those services have been reinstated, however they were soon withdrawn again due to low patronage. I mean, people, you want the trains? Use them! Behind me is Rycroft Junction. At one stage from this junction you could go in 4 different directions. Let me explain. First of all, in 1849 you had the line going through to Lichfield. In 1858 a new line was connected through to Cannock. In 1872 a line was built through to Wolverhampton, followed by 1879 with the line going through to Castle Bromwich. I should probably get that checked out.
With the opening of the branch to Castle Bromwich came a connection to the existing line to Wolverhampton, with both lines being owned and operated by the Midland Railway, and an engine shed in between the Rugeley and Lichfield lines. The engine shed closed in 1965, and 2 years later the link line was closed. By this stage, the line to Wolverhampton was only open as far as the Birchills Power Station, which closed in 1980. In 1984, the line to Lichfield was closed, leaving just the lines to Rugeley and Castle Bromwich. Sometime between the pathetic scaremongering of Y2K and 2009, the junction was remodelled for higher speeds. If we overlay the lines on Google Maps, this is the extent of the railways north of Walsall. Just here is where the link line from Castle Bromwich to Wolverhampton crossed over the South Staffordshire line. The bridge deck has since been removed, but if you don't mind how many bushes you scrape through, the bridge abutments are still visible to this day.
After splitting away from Rycroft, we get to Rushall Station. The station here opened in 1849 with the rest of the line However, it closed as early as 1909.
No photos appear to exist of the station when it was open, just as painting by Mr. David Dunkley, done from memory. The station was situated on the north side of the level crossing, with the signal box on the other side.
The next station along is Pellsall Station. The station opened in 1849 and closed in 1964, but the line through this section remained open until 1984 for freight working and the occasional diversion. In 2016, there was a bit of a problem with the bridge behind me carrying the railway over Vicarage Road, mainly due to a bunch of throwing stuff onto passing cars, like bottles and Sam Smith CDs, that sort of garbage.
Some unfortunate motorists also found the cars pelted with rocks.
So in 2016, they erected green fencing, which was a lot higher, to stop them doing that.
The station itself was pretty basic, with just 2 platforms with the 2 tracks going through and a little goods yard just to the north. In 1878, a branch line was added just to the south of Pellsall to serve some collieries and some brick and tile works. Called the Leeswood branch, the branch and Leeswood junction closed in 1965.
Shortly after leaving Pellsall, we come to what was the three-way junction.
Branching left in 1858 was the Norton branch leading to loads of collieries. In 1882, the Walsall Wood branch opened to the Walsall Wood Colliery. Both branches closed in 1964.
There is another little artefact proving that there used to be a railway here. Just behind me, we've got this lovely distance signal, which if we look on Google Maps, is positioned right about here. Whoa! That was close. Just behind me is Brownhill Station. The station opened in 1849 and closed in 1964. However, the line continued for freight workings until 1984.
The station itself was pretty basic, with just 2 platforms and the station building being on the southbound platform. Just to the south of the road bridge was the goods yard and a small branch to a wharf next to the canal. The line closed in 1984, with the rails being removed 2 years later. The route of the railway lay derelict until the mid to late 2000s, before the Maclean Way was opened as a footpath which protected the corridor for potential future railway use. In 1986, the road bridge over the railway got a baby brother when the junction of the A452, the A4124 and the B4155 was expanded to cope with increasing traffic. In 2006, a 5-ton statue was erected of Jack Jigger Taylor, a miner who died in Walsall Wood coal pit in 1951, when the roof of the mine collapsed. His grandson Jack Groves won a competition to find a nickname for the statue, in which he collected a £30 W.H. Smith voucher, which these days would get you some crayons, a bottle of Fanta and 12 second-class stamps.
This wasn't the only station to serve Brownhills, however. Just to the northwest of here was Brownhills Watling Street, which was so named because it was located on Chester Road North. Yeah, got that wrong, didn't you, mate? And here we are underneath the A5 Watling Street. The original bridge being an arch bridge, which was expanded sometime to include this lovely concrete box, complete with graffiti. Just about 100 yards south of here is where the Wiley and Essington Canal passes over the South Staffordshire Railway. As you can tell, the tracks are still there and it ends pretty much at a tree. I imagine that's for the George of the Jungle Express. And this is what it looks like on top of the bridge.
Oi, keep it down!
Sorry!
The Anglesey Oil Terminal was the end of the northern part of the line from 1984 to the early 2000s. In the old days, it was also the site of a junction to the Cannock Chase collieries. The line to the collieries closed in 1960, with the oil terminal opening in 1966. The line through to Walsall closed in 1984, with the rails being lifted 2 years later. Trains continued to serve the oil terminal until 2001, just before the opening of the M6 toll motorway.
Just after the Anglesey Oil Terminal is where you'll find the M6 toll motorway. The motorway opened in 2002, about a year after the last train had passed over that section of line. But as you can tell, very kindly put in the bridge just in case they ever wanted to bring a railway back into use. The current toll for a car using the M6 toll motorway is currently £9.70, which when you consider the alternative as being stuck in traffic looking at that horrible dump called Birmingham, is a price worth paying.
Information correct at time of recording, price may now be in the thousands.
About a mile after the M6 toll motorway, we have Hammeridge. Station opened in 1849 and closed in 1965 to passengers. The line through this section remained open until 2002 to serve the oil freight terminal. Station building still remains, however the platforms have long been demolished. One of the surviving relics of Hammeritch is its old railway footbridge. Although, as you can tell, there seem to be some stepped ramps which are going either side of the railway track, which does beg the question, are they going to be getting rid of this bridge? I hope not. As you can also tell, they've been getting rid of a lot of the railway track here. The purpose of this is in order to turn this railway into a footpath. Just before we get into Lichfield, we have the Fossway crossing. Crossing was last used by trains in 2001 to 2002 when the line was mothballed. Before that, however, the crossing was converted into an automatic half-barrier type, which rendered that crossing box pretty much redundant. However, it isn't going to stay that way, as there are plans for that crossing box to be converted into a lovely little cafe.
Beyond the crossing, the line parallels the restoration of the Lichfield Canal. Since the closure of the railway line, there have been plans to reopen the railway in one form or another, meaning we could have had scenes like this, alongside this.
Rosie and Jim, Rosie and Jim.
Since the closure of the railway, a new bypass was added to the south of Lichfield, and due to the desire of the railway reopening, a bridge carrying the railway over the new road was added, with the tracks replaced at the same time.
Here we are back at Lichfield City Station. The original station opened a short distance away in 1849, but was built on its current location in 1884, when the line through from Sutton Coldfield was built.
The layout at Lichfield City Station was simplified in the 1990s during the electrification of the Cross City Line, which has 2 platforms, some sidings, and the remains of the line which went as far as the oil terminal at Anglesey. There were plans for the South Staffordshire Railway to reopen as a branch of the Midland Metro to Wednesbury, but the question is, how would it connect up at Lichfield? One option could have been to add the Midland Metro line just to the north of the Cross City Line, with the platforms arranged like this. Or alternatively, building a new platform for the Cross City Line to the south and using the existing Platform 1 for the Midland Metro, but that would require the digging of the foot tunnel to reach a new platform. Recently, we got an answer. The reopening of the line is going back from the procrastination phase to the pipe dream phase, and the leftover track being removed, with the line being made into a footpath, which means the railway would go from looking like this
to something like this, or looking like this. Just to the south of here is where a railway bridge has been hit numerous times by idiots driving trucks. However, in the 2 years which I've been living in Lichfield, I haven't heard of it being hit once. Maybe truck drivers are getting cleverer. I knew it was too good to be true.
Like most stations, Lichfield City had a goods yard and engine shed, both of which closed in 1968. The line beyond to Trent Valley was closed to regular passenger trains from 1965 till 1988.
The next station after this one is Lichfield Trent Valley, although as I've done it twice before, I think I'm going to skip it. Just before the South Staffordshire line joins the Birmingham and Derby Railway at Witchnell Junction, we come to Orrewas, which opened in 1849 with the rest of the line and closed in 1965. It was announced in 2018 that the station could reopen here at Orrewas, which could be open in 2034. So if you're waiting for a train, you've got a long time to wait still. Although the station is closed, the railway is still very much open for freight working and the occasional diversion for cross-country.
One reason for reopening the station is to provide better public transport to the National Memorial Arboretum, instead of relying on the bumper cars which run the X12 from Lichfield to Burton-on-Trent.
Just behind me is Witchnell Junction, which is where the South Staffordshire Railway joins up with the Midland Railway from Birmingham to Derby. The junction opened in 1849, however in 1855 relations with the Midland Railway deteriorated and a station was built at the junction for the transfer of passengers and goods. This lasted until 1877, when the South Staffordshire Railway were able to kiss and make up with the Midland Railway and obtain rights right the way through to Burton-on-Trent again. In 1969, Witchnell Junction was the scene of a train crash. A coal train had just passed over a level crossing and a tractor with a trailer was crossing over, not realising that there was a train coming in the opposite direction.
The train driver involved was seriously injured, however the passengers had minor injuries, mainly due to them all being in the last carriage. The signalman saw the accident was about to occur and waved frantically at the tractor driver to try and warn him, but to no avail. The tractor driver reported feeling a slight bump.
At night I wake up with the sheets soaking wet and a freight train running through the middle of my head.
Actually, Bruce, That would be Birmingham to Derby going through its backside. And there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. Next time it's going to be 2 railways for the price of 1. We're going to be taking a trip to London. Here's a couple of snippets. If you can guess the 2 railways which are going to be featured in that video, leave it in the comments and I'll give you a nice mention. Until next time, have a lacquer day. What? Oh, come on! Come on, keep doing it.